All right, let's jump right in. We're about to explore a really fascinating idea, one that connects how our own brains deal with hardship to how an artificial intelligence learns to master a brand new world. It's all about a hidden advantage baked right into chaos itself.
You know, for the longest time, psychology has had a pretty simple answer to this question, a big, resounding yes. The conventional wisdom has always been that stress and unpredictability early in life, well, they're just damaging. But what if that's not the whole story? What if the brain isn't just being harmed? What if it's actually adapting?
And right there, that's a huge shift in thinking. The old view is pretty straightforward. Stress impairs the mind, period. But this new theory suggests something much more nuanced. It's not about impairment, it's about adaptation. The idea is that the mind is literally being sculpted to survive and thrive in a specific kind of environment. So to really get our heads around this, let's start with the human side of the equation. We're going to look at a study from the University of Minnesota that put this exact idea to the test, to see how an unpredictable world can fundamentally reshape the tools our brain uses to think. The whole idea behind the study comes from this really cool framework called life history theory. And the concept, when you boil it down, is simple but super powerful. Your brain is constantly taking notes on your childhood environment to build a set of mental tools it thinks you're going to need later in life. A stable, predictable childhood, that builds one kind of toolkit. A chaotic, unpredictable one, well, that builds a totally different one. This theory suggests there's a trade-off between two key skills. First, you've got inhibition. Think of this as your brain's deep focus mode, the ability to screen out distractions and just grind away at a single goal. It's perfect for stable worlds. But then you have shifting. This is your brain's agility, its power to pivot on a dime and switch between tasks. The theory goes, your brain kind of has to choose which one to specialize in. So to test that focus skill, they came up with this pretty clever task. See that bright yellow flash? Your gut reaction, your instinct is to look right at it. But to win this game, you have to actively suppress that urge. You have to inhibit it, and instead look to the opposite side of the screen to identify a little arrow. It's a pure test of your brain's ability to override its own impulses. And the test for flexibility was just as smart. Here, people had to sort objects, but the rule kept changing without warning. 1 second, it's sort by color. The next, boom, it's sort by shape. What they're measuring is something called switch cost, that tiny bit of time and mental energy you lose when the rules change. The lower your switch cost, the more mentally flexible you are. And this all leads to the study's main conclusion, which, honestly, just flips the old way of thinking completely on its head. This one sentence says it all. It's not about being broken. It's about being specialized. It turns out certain mental skills are actually sharpened by a tough upbringing. But, and this is key, only under the right conditions. And it all comes down to that trade-off we talked about. When the researchers introduced uncertainty into the lab, the adults who came from unpredictable backgrounds were worse at the focus task. But they were way better, much faster at the shifting task. Their brains were literally optimized for a world where you can't count on things staying the same. And what's wild is, this specialized skill only switched on when their brains sensed that familiar feeling of uncertainty.
Okay, I want you to file that idea away for a second. Adaptation, trade-offs, specializing for chaos. Because we're about to take what feels like a hard left turn. All the way from human psychology to an AI learning to play old-school Atari games. I promise, the connection here is absolutely stunning.
It sounds kind of crazy, right? But think about it. Whether you're a person trying to navigate a complex, unpredictable world, or an AI trying to get a chicken across the road in freeway, the fundamental problem is exactly the same. You are dropped into a chaotic, new environment, and you have to figure out how it works, and you have to do it fast. Now, for an AI to even begin to learn, it has to first develop something researchers call contingency awareness. And really, it's just a fancy term for something a human baby does. It's that moment of realization of, hey, when I do this, that happens. It has to figure out which pixels on the screen are actually me, the part of this crazy world that it can actually control. So when an AI first boots up a game like Sequest, it has no idea what's going on. It's just a meaningless soup of shifting pixels. It can move the joystick, sure, and some pixels change, but it doesn't know if it's controlling the submarine or the fish or the score. It's completely lost in the noise. But then, after a bunch of trial and error, something clicks. The AI has its aha moment. It starts to isolate the pixels that are contingent on its actions, in this case, the submarine and the torpedoes it fires.
It learns to filter out all the distractions, the seaweed, the enemy sharks, and focus only on the parts of the world it can influence. It learns what's actually worth paying attention to.
And does this one little trick actually work? Oh yeah, the results are just night and day. Across 46 different Atari games, the AIs that were first taught this self-awareness skill just demolished the basic AIs. This single ability, knowing what to focus on, turned out to be the secret key to mastering all sorts of unpredictable digital worlds.
So here we are. We've got these two totally separate stories. One about the human brain being forged in the fires of an unpredictable childhood, and another about a computer learning to play video games. Now let's pull on the thread that ties them both together.
And this is it. This is the beautiful parallel. The human brain, when adapted to chaos, learns when to shift its attention, trading deep focus for nimble flexibility. The AI, to master its own chaotic world, learns what to focus its attention on, learning to separate the signal from the noise. You see? They're both solving the exact same problem: how to best manage the single finite resource of attention.
And this brings us to a really deep fundamental idea. Maybe the true essence of intelligence, whether it's growing in our brains or in a silicon chip, isn't about how much you can remember or how fast you can calculate. Maybe it's about the much harder skill of filtering reality, of figuring out what matters in an endless sea of information.
So, I'll leave you with this final kind of mind-bending thought. The mental flexibility some people learn through real hardship is a powerful, elegant survival strategy. And if we can now identify that strategy, write it down as an algorithm, and give it to a machine to help it navigate chaos, what does that say about intelligence itself? What other secrets to building truly smart systems might be hidden inside our own structure?